For more on this, I'd like to welcome in Israeli journalist Emily Schrader, Associate Fellow at the Tel Aviv Institute. Emily, welcome back. I know that you recently met with some U.S. senators and also some members of the House to talk about Iran as it pertains to the Israel-Gaza war. Tell me about those discussions.
That's right. So my time in Congress was mostly focused on exposing the link between the Islamic Republic of Iran and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Now, as we know, the Islamic Republic has funded Hamas for many years, most recently to the tune of $100 million a year. Now, one of the things that we also see as a result of that is the same type of barbarity that the regime has implemented against their own citizens inside of Iran, now being exported through their terror proxies like Hamas. Now, of course, there is the cynical use of sites like schools, like mosques, like hospitals, of course. This is par for the course for the Iranian regime. But in addition to that, we also saw on October 7th with the sexual assaults, with the rapes, with the style of depraved and really barbaric acts of terrorism. This is something straight from the playbook of the regime in Iran.
And how did you leave those discussions? Did you feel U.S. support is waning for Israel amid growing international criticism of the humanitarian crisis?
So interestingly, I didn't feel that way at all, not from the Democrats that I met with or the Republicans. I think the support for Israel's right to defend itself is pretty ironclad, despite any political differences that there may be in the approach. I think that's a value-based relationship, and I do actually anticipate that it will continue that way. My concern is that the issue isn't just Hamas. The issue is much larger than that. And personally, I don't believe that the Biden administration sees the connection between the two. This is not just a problem that we are facing on the ground in Israel. This is a problem that the entire Western world is facing. And in particular, the United States. The Iranian threat is not just about Israel. And the terror proxies that are acting at the behest and with the funding of the Iranian regime are attacking American forces on a regular basis in the Middle East. And if you think that their intent is to limit that only to terror, army bases or troops, U.S. troops that are abroad or ships, then you're sorely mistaken.
Talk, if you will, about some of the tactics the IDF is using now to root out Hamas. Specifically, we're hearing some of these reports of using seawater in the tunnels to flesh out the Hamas members. Is that, in fact, happening? And what's happening on the ground right now?
So the most recent reports do indicate that they did begin flooding the tunnels. This was widely reported. I don't have additional information as to the specifics or how many of them or how pervasive this operation in terms of flooding the tunnels is. This isn't actually unusual. We know that before that, they've also used a number of different technologies in order to block off tunnels, in order to collapse certain tunnels in some circumstances. And so it's no surprise that in some cases we are now seeing flooding of certain tunnels as well. In terms of the tactics that they are using, I think it's important to emphasize that the IDF has the ability to conduct only airstrikes from above, which would be far more indiscriminate than what they have actually done, which is the ground operation, manually going door to door at great risk to many of the soldiers. And the reason that this is important for the IDF to do is because they don't want to see civilian casualties. And it's incredibly difficult in such an urban guerrilla warfare type environment where you have a terrorist organization that's actively working not just against Israel and the IDF, but against their own people, exploiting them using, facilities like hospitals, like mosques. This is incredibly dangerous for both sides.
Israel has been clear it does not want the Palestinian Authority to control Gaza post-war. What are they proposing for a post-war solution?
There hasn't yet been a formal proposal in terms of what they plan to do. I think that there are a number of discussions happening, in a parallel way with many different partners that work with Israel. I know that they're in touch with, the UAE and Arab state partners, of course, probably also Saudi Arabia behind the scenes. And in addition to that, they're also in talks regularly with the United States about what the future of Gaza would look like. I think that the United States has sort of been inconsistent when it comes to whether or not they actually support the Palestinian Authority taking over. There were some contradictory statements. John Kirby said one thing, and Kamala Harris said something else.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.